Right, we're just going to make a simple face cream, a day face cream.
Just like a normal moisturiser.
Yeah, that you can just use every day and night. I use it for both, and I can also show you how to adjust it to make a night cream, and we'll probably do an eye cream at some point as well. So, with face creams, we're basically using oil ingredients and water ingredients, and then we're using an emulsifier. Like I said, with the salad dressing, you've got your oil and vinegar and use a mustard or something to bind the ingredients together.
Makes sense.
Okay, so water ingredients are going to go in one jug. So let's do those first. So that's going to be distilled water, which I put in there because normally I have a big 5 litre.
Ordinary distilled water that you can buy anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, I just get it in this car motor shop around the corner from me. So it's sort of those sort of shops, more than the supermarkets.
So distilled water.
Yep, and then we've got some rose hydrosol again. And
all of that straight in there.
Yeah, and you could use rose water as well. So usually rose water is not steam distilled. It's usually sort of water with some essential oils in, for the scent. But hydrosol is probably a bit more preferable, just for your skin.
And if you're putting it on the skin, it's better to go with that, right?
It is. And then in that pot I've got a little bit of glycerin and a bit of, that is the aloe vera.
Okay.
So with the water, it's a 200 to 1 part aloe vera, so I've just stuck it in there with the glycerin.
And just pour that straight in?
Yeah, so normally I have a big, jug of those as well. So just stick that in if you can.
It's a bit sticky.
Yeah, and that will just sort of melt down. And then what we'll do is we'll do the oil ingredients in a separate Pyrex, and we'll heat them both to 70 degrees centigrade, and we'll hold them for a few minutes. And then as they cool down, we'll mix them with the hand blender, and then we'll put the cool down ingredients and the scent and the preservative. And then you'll see we've got a nice sort of creamy cream.
Fantastic. And we just heat these up in the microwave as we've done with other products?
Yeah, I mean, because we're holding the heat for a few minutes, I tend to do it on the stove. I think initially today, just because we don't want to wait ages, you can sort of be doing other things while it's on the stove, but we'll just give them a head start in the microwave, so we can put them on the stove for a few minutes and then come back to them. Okay, brilliant.
That's the water ingredients. Put that to one side.
Yeah. Okay, so with the face, with the oils, we've got a mix of carrier oils that I've just put in there already. So I've got some evening primrose in there, some raspberry seed oil, which I tend to use in the summer because it's got an SPF of 30.
Oh, so that's where we get the SPF protection from. It's the carrier oils, right?
Yeah, in this particular recipe, yes. So raspberry seed oil, I used to use that a lot in the Caribbean because, you're in the sun a lot, and any summer moisturiser I make, I kind of think about SPF a bit more.
Yeah.
I mean, lots of carrier oils, things like coconut have only got like a 5 SPF, and shea butter's sort of 7 SPF. So 30 is really high. And then I've also put some carrot seed oil in there, which is an SPF of 40. And also some rosehip oil, which, my skin really likes. So it's just a matter of, you don't have to use those oils.
No, but getting that protection in a face cream for me is quite important.
Yeah.
I think that's a good protection for the skin, and if we can get it naturally from these oils, then that makes it even better. So this is going straight in.
Yeah, that's going in there. And obviously, again, even though the recipe is only 8% oils, those oils are really important. So if you use like a castor oil, that will be really heavy. So you can actually play around with the oils. Once you've made the recipe once, write down what you've done again.
Okay.
If you think, actually, I want a heavier oil, in the winter you don't need to worry about the SPF so much.
Yep.
You can play around with it. So if you were doing like a night cream, you'd probably make that 10 or 12% of oils, and that will make a huge difference to the recipe.
And that makes the consistency, I guess, a bit thicker.
Yeah, exactly. So to that, we're going to add in this is the emulsifier, the BTMS. So you can buy that also online, and that's the thing that's going to bring the oil and water together. So we always put that in with the oil ingredients.
Chuck that straight in.
Chuck it in, yeah.
That's like little beads, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. Without that, the whole thing won't, you can just do it with your finger. Okay. The whole thing won't join together. So that's going to, and once I left that out, I couldn't work out why the whole thing wasn't
That's like the glue.
Yeah.
Okay.
Without that, it doesn't work. And this is cetyl alcohol, so it sounds like alcohol, but it's actually a vegetable alcohol. So it's actually derived from coconut. And that will basically thicken the cream,
Okay.
and it also sort of gives it's an emollient, so it gives a nice powdery feel to the cream, so it's not too sort of buttery feeling.
And that'll be okay for people that've got maybe an allergy against alcohol to use. 'Cause it's not
it's
actual
not.
alcohol.
It's vegetable. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Okay. So that's those, and we have got some cool down ingredients to put in, but that will be after we've heated these up. So we're going to heat both of these up to 70 degrees in the microwave, and then we're going to actually put them on the stove. So once you've got the oil to 70, that will stay very consistently at 70. It's the water side that you have to kind of watch, and with the thermometer and stuff. So we'll do that now first.
Perfect.
So we're back here with the face cream. We've heated both the oil and the water ingredients to 70 degrees, and we've kept them there for a few minutes on the stove. So we've got the boiled water here that we've had them in. So now we're going to pour the water into the oil. So they're both around 70 degrees.
And I guess it's easier to put the water in because it's going to pour easier.
Yeah, it's just
so straight in.
Yeah, straight in. See, it's sort of changing colour a bit.
Yep. And does that get a stir? Or?
Yeah, you can stir that and then basically do it with the stick blender. So before we had the whisk, but this is actually just the stick blender here. I don't know if you can see that.
Perfect. So onto this now?
Yeah,
I don't need to let that cool down or anything.
No, just for about 20 seconds or so. And we will stick blend it again once we've got the other cool down ingredients. So it's just an initial whisk. Yeah, that's good.
So that really is just like whipping cream?
Yes, now it's starting to thicken and combine. Yeah,
just bring it over here to see that we've got a creamy like consistency to that now.
Yeah, so it's starting to become cream, and as it cools down it will thicken. So what we'll do is we'll just take the temperature of it now, and really we need it below 45 to add the cool down ingredients, so we're still going to be above that. Yeah. So we're about the mid-50s. So what we'll do is we'll leave it for a few minutes, and then we'll come back and put in the final ingredients, the preservative and the scent. Okay, so we are back with the face cream again, the last time. So it's around 44, 45 degrees now, which is the perfect temperature to add the cool down ingredients, which is a bit like the other recipes that we've done. So you've got some preservative in here. Some of the protein, the panthenol. We've actually got the liquid panthenol, but I would suggest buying the powder panthenol really, because it's just less gloopy.
Easier to use, yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit sort of like treacle, this one. But it's in there.
So if you've got a powder, oh yeah, that really is quite sticky. It's like treacle.
Yeah. It's kind of fun, but not.
Yeah, but powder's going to go in better.
Yeah, and you can put some frankincense in that one too.
Yeah,
and what
that's
else?
One of my favourite fragrances, frankincense.
I've got a little bit of calendula extract because again I've got that from the toner, but you could use any botanical extract. So if you
just go straight in,
yeah, put that in.
Feels like it's going to curdle.
Yeah, but it won't. It will mix. It should mix. And I'm just going to put a few drops of rose in. Rose is pretty expensive, but it's a very sort of high vibration oil, so it's very sort of therapeutic as well. So I'm just going to see if we can get a bit of that out as well. It's one of my favourite oils. Just a few drops like that. It's Moroccan rose. Right, so if you just give that a quick mix with the
Yep, okay.
And then we're going to just stick blend it again, and then it will go into these jars, and then I tend to put it in the fridge for a couple of hours, and that's it.
That really is so easy.
Yeah, and then you can sort of just custom make it for your skin, so you've got really perfect cream, and you can play about and change it for the seasons and do the night cream and if you want to, but I kind of use that cream day and night. I find it's moisturising enough to do.
So over to the
that's it. Okay. Just blend it again. Quite nicely.
So that really is like a thick cream consistency now, isn't it?
Yeah, and that will obviously set as it cools down in the fridge even more. So you can just stick a bit.
Now the challenge is getting it into the jars.
Yeah, it should be alright with the spatula. Do we
get a spoon? Or should we?
You can just stick a spatula in there. It should it fit in?
Oh yeah. Optical illusion that it doesn't go into.
It's weird, isn't it? It's kind of like, it looks like buttercream for a cake or something.
It does.
But it's just going to last you months. You know, that's the nice thing about it. It smells really nice. I can smell the rose and the frankincense.
It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
And that's
Very
a lovely
much.
combination. And just going into jars that you've already got as well, as long as they're clean.
Yeah, as long as they're sterilised. These I bought from Baldwin's, like the other bottles that we used before. So, I mean, they're like £1, you know, that's quite a nice size. And just make a note, you know, of what you've done. If I'm doing more than one cream, I just sort of write day on the top of it and night, so I know the difference. But I tend to make them a different scent, you know, for the day and night.
So I'm just going to try some of that.
Yeah, it's quite nice as a hand cream. Obviously, if it was too moisturising for you, you could use it as a hand cream. You could give it to someone. But I would say try it at least for a week, because in that time you actually sort of, you know, your skin gets used to it and you sort of change your mind if you think it's a bit light or a bit heavy.
That feels really nice. That was so easy to do.
And that's probably the most difficult thing that I make in all the sort of how-to videos. So well done.